Okay, guess we'll get started. Thank you, everybody, again for being here. I know it's near Halloween. I'm sure all of us have some things to do, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today is October 30th, and this is the Brownsville Public Utilities Board Regulatory and Policy Committee meeting. It's 5 p.m. And we'll start with calling the meeting to order. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
No public comments. All righty, we'll go straight into item number 1, presentation and discussion of revisions to the Brownsville Public Utility Board Corporation credit card policy.
Good evening, committee members, and my name is Jorge Santillan, Finance Manager. The current policy was approved on June 13, 2016. It improves the efficiency and flexibility for the receipt of goods and services, including travel, and provides an alternative acquisition and payment system by which the BPUB uses a corporate credit card. Some of the proposed policy changes. First, the document was completely updated to a new policy format. The purpose and scope sections were combined with the unrenamed policy statement. The previous policy section was combined with the roles and responsibilities section. We also removed the definition section, and those are now included in the procedures document. We also updated the department name. We also expanded the procedures section to include items related to our tax exemption, and also added a section for the card cancellations. We also removed the boundaries and limitations section. These boundaries and limitations are described in the procedures document in the corporate credit cardholder acknowledgement form. Including with your backup is the policy effective 2016, and also a draft version of the updated policy document. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I don't know, do we have any, do you have any questions?
What are the most relevant changes?
Number one, the format. The format being used was outdated format.
Well, I mean, but not like
Not besides the format. We added the relevance section is we expanded the procedure section. There was no detailed items related to our exemptions related to the sales tax. So we added those procedures, what to do in case a vendor charges sales tax to BPUB, what are the employer's responsibilities to make sure that we get that refund, and also make the employer responsible to request that refund for those sales taxes. Before there were no such procedures.
Okay.
So this isn't like travel related, this is more on the procurement card,
This is the corporate credit card, which at times can be used for travel-related items such as registration, airline tickets, things like that.
Have there been any changes to those processes?
Not to those prices, no. Okay. We have a separate procedures and policy on the travel, and that's a separate document.
Yeah, I think we reviewed travel
It was like,
since I've been here, so
yeah.
it's been fairly recent.
I have a general comment. It would be useful for presentations like this for it to be listed on the first page, like what the position is of the presenter, and maybe the hierarchy of departments, and who oversees that, just to help us understand, the functions of the organization. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Everything looks pretty straightforward, so thank you for that information.
Thank you.
I guess just kind of talking out loud, we can include that in the consent items for the big meeting.
I agree.
Yeah, moving on to item number 2. Presentation and discussion to the BPUB Personnel Policies Procedure number 10, holidays.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, Chairman, Board Member. My name is Sergio Delgadillo. I'm the Compensation and Benefits Manager. I report to the HR Division under the direction of Dr. Emilia Guerra. I'll be presenting item 2 and item 3. So this policy has undergone a comprehensive review to ensure that it remains compliant with current regulations and competitive with our industry. Our objective was to ensure that we maintain a fair and attractive holiday leave policy that supports employees' well-being while aligning with our organizational needs. So it was last revised and approved by the board on March 12, 2007, and of course it's going to establish the provisions for paid time during holidays. Like we've been bringing some of these policies, we are making sure that we do 3 things: that the format, the wording, and the feel of the document is consistent with all the recent updated documents. We ensure that we're in compliant with any federal, state, or local laws. So these policies are going to our local council review, and they're being reviewed by different steps in the process, which includes our executive team and directors. And we ensure that language is clear and easy to understand. As you may have seen in the red line document, for this policy, we retitle some sections, combine others. We reworded and moved them into general provisions so that it would easily flow and it would be fine and easy to understand. And of course, we added those sections that now are part of all of our policies, which include the board approved date, the last review date, and the effective date. As an additional housekeeping item, we included an eligibility section to align it with our recently updated policy number 5, employee classification. So what is the main change? As you'll see, we added a provision that supports management in scheduling work during holidays and encourages employees assigned to holiday shift to adhere to their schedules. So how does this look like? I would assume would be the next question. So non-exempt employees who are scheduled to work on the holiday are eligible to receive holiday pay in addition to the regular pay for hours they actually work on that day. This effectively means that anybody working on a holiday will get double pay, their hours worked plus their holiday, which encourages work during holidays. However, we found it important to include a provision for situations where you had an employee that was scheduled to work on the holiday but was not showing up. So we do have a 24/7 operation, and it's important that every shift it's served. So in such cases, when an employee is scheduled to work and does not show up to work, the change that we're including in this policy is that they would forfeit their holiday pay. So the employee who misses their scheduled holiday will have the option to use their accrued leave, such as vacation or personal leave, to cover those missed hours. This will require, of course, supervisor approval, as our policies for leave required.
So that's different than if I'm taking vacation or PTO or whatever we call it internally. I would still get paid, I guess, regular time for that holiday, or holiday pay, I guess.
You mean if you are not scheduled to work?
I'm not scheduled to work because
Yes, you
I
would get,
scheduled
it's called holiday leave.
Christmas break, and I'll be out during the actual holiday itself. I will get paid holiday time.
Yes, yes, so that's practically standard around most of our different cities that we have. We actually belong to an RGV consortium where all of our cities share information. We recently went through a survey, kind of comparing how many holidays each one of us are offering to our employees, which is exactly what you said. A day that holidays observed that employees do not work and get paid.
Yep.
And we pretty much aligned. Most, well, not most, I guess around half have the same number of holidays that we do. One has a higher number by one holiday, and then the rest are in between 13th and 12th. So we're pretty much all benchmarking close enough.
What's the total number?
15 paid
15.
holidays.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
We're very well cared by BPUV.
I love that you all don't have to work on your birthday. That's pretty nice.
That's,
You do?
Yeah.
But it says here.
yeah, so what we have is a
That's
provision
just on the
where-
policy.
No, no,
I'm
we get to
kidding,
use
I'm
it in the next 11 months.
Uh-huh. Oh. Oh, so you don't get your birthday off, you just, it's, okay,
You get a birthday gift.
okay. Birthday gift, okay. Still nice.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I think it's a pretty standard setup. Obviously, we're 24/7, 365. There's people that are going to have to work on the holidays, and I think it's a good incentive for them to get both holiday pay and hours work paid. So,
Thank you. We would like to see, we have your recommendation to take it to the board?
yes, I would say, and then it can be in consent items.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to item number 3, presentation and discussion of addition to the BPUB personnel policies, number TBD, community partnership leave.
So this item I'll be presenting again, and this is a proposed policy. We're bringing it for discussion. It's our first rendition of the policy. So this policy represents a significant step forward in our commitment to fostering a culture of community engagement and volunteerism with our organization. We believe that by promoting these opportunities, we not only strengthen our ties with the community, but also enrich the life of our employees. So as you can see in the slide, there are some examples of those benefits. So of course, volunteerism has shown to improve mental and physical health, reducing stress and increasing overall happiness. So we believe that, it does contribute to employee well-being. Employees feel more connected and motivated when they can contribute to causes they care about, leading to higher job satisfaction, productivity. Skill development, volunteering helps employees develop new skills and enhance existing ones, such as leadership, teamwork, problem solving, network opportunities. Of course, employees can expand their professional networks by meeting new people and organizations through volunteer activities. And last, improve public relations. They say that companies that support community involvement often enjoy better public image, which can potentially attract employees to value that corporate social responsibility and stronger community ties. Uh-oh. So what are we proposing? This policy is, of course, eligibility. Regular full-time exempt employees who serve as volunteer will be eligible. What are the general provisions that we're looking at? Well, employees will have to volunteer to a local nonprofit, schools, and serve organizations, preferably as board members of those organizations. Paid time off, so employees would be allowed to use up to 10 hours per month to a maximum of 40 hours per calendar year to join these volunteer activities. Workload considerations, we, of course, make sure that, like we said before, we get our work done. We have to put that in front and first. So we would need to make sure that their leave does not conflict with any responsibilities or schedules. And although we do have some provisions regarding being spokesmen for a company, we would encourage employees to speak on behalf of BPUB, of course, on authorized subjects. Do we have any questions on this slide?
Just kind of a technicality there on the 10 hours per month. Do those accumulate, or if you don't use it
No, so
in a particular month, then?
what we're thinking is that an employee would be allowed to use up to 40 hours, but not more than 10 in a month. So 2 or 3 months, they might not use them, but 1 month they can use them. When the next year comes, no hours are accrued, no hours are rollover. You just start a new year, and then you can have another 40 hours to use through your volunteers activities. So what we've seen is that people that serve on boards typically need 2 hours or so, sometimes during work hours, to join a meeting or so. So that would cover that time to be able to go and attend that type of service.
And this is in addition to their normal PTO time?
Yes, yes, this would be in addition. This would be to promote that community partnership. So they would be per se, right, per se, because we, as you'll see, we are asking for them to be advocates of our company. So there is a, looking for the right word. There is an expectations for the employees to serve as advocates for BPUB, to share our programs, to talk about BPUB and their benefits. And that could also be perceived as work in many ways. However, we are providing this time specifically for that purpose where both things could happen. Make sense?
Yes, that makes good sense.
I'm just wondering if an activity occurs after regularly scheduled work hours, would that count, or
No.
no?
No, this is just for time that they will need to take off during work hours. So there's some Rotary clubs, for example, that meet at 7 in the morning. So we would have to look at that organization. They would have to submit an application. And you'll see it on the next slide. Once they're approved, then they could potentially use maybe that second hour of the morning to attend that once-a-month meeting, and it will be paid time through this leave. That's only time that is required during work time that they would get, and
Okay.
for a specific purpose.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I think this is a really good benefit. I think just from my personal experience, everybody at PUB, I would say mostly everybody is demonstrates leadership skills, so their participation in different organizations in the community can provide both, access to that leadership for the community organization, and then, as you also said, just advocating and discussing maybe more of the activities around PUB and what we're doing, what we represent. As you know, there's a lot of discussions around PUB in the community, and it's always good when we can discuss as employees freely and advocate, for BPUB. So I think this is very good. Is there anything else?
Yes, so it's just one more slide.
Okay.
And we're done. So you said it the right way. Employees would become ambassadors of BPUB, supporting a cause they believe in and that we share together. So request and approval criteria. Performance requirements, so of course employees to be eligible would need to be meeting the expectation of performance and attendance. They would also have to be organizations that are formally established, legal entities. And last, there will have to be a request process where they will have to be approved for that leave and to be part of that organization they're joining. That would be it.
Yep, yeah, sounds all reasonable. And again, this applies to all employees?
No.
Okay.
This would apply to, and I'll go back, regular full-time exempt employees.
Okay,
Regular full-time exempt employees. So it's not all employees, I guess that's going to prompt the question. There are other various policies out there. They're called VTO policies, volunteer leave policies. Other organizations have adopted. That would be a second phase that we need to explore. In this case, as our employees are serving these boards, we are asking that they represent BPUB as well as they're doing that dual job. And that could be considered job or work. It would be payable hours
Correct.
versus leave hours. So that's why in this instance, we're proposing that for this policy, which is community partnership, only exempt employees would be considered. Again, as a second phase, we could potentially explore a volunteer leave policy or a VTO policy as it's known out there, but that is not what this is.
understood.
All right. With that said, we wanted to make sure that we discuss this. We take your feedback. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you. Great work on this.
Yeah, so you can also include that in the consent items.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, moving on to item number 4, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of the BPUB Utilities Finance Reserve Policy.
Yes, so good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Perez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting a draft of the new Utility Financial Reserve Policy. Our policy statement is that in order to maintain stable rates and provide reliable service, BPUB must maintain appropriate financial reserves which can absorb short-term financial variability resulting from unexpected operating results or can reduce the need for debt issuances. This policy will ensure that BPUB maintains adequate reserve levels for the purpose of providing sufficient cash flow for daily operations. So without these reserves, any unforeseen emergency expenditures can deplete BPUB's operating funds and thus hindering BPUB's ability to pay for its ongoing daily operations. This reserve practice is looked upon favorably by the rating agencies that can have a positive effect on BPUB's bond rating. These reserves also offset significant economic declines or revenue shortfalls and demonstrates a commitment to long-term financial planning objectives. This policy identifies 6 different reserves, 4 of which are required by bond covenants, right? So these 4 required reserves are fully and adequately funded. Starting off with number 1, the operating reserve. This is maintained, or the intent is to meet day-to-day maintenance and operation expenses. It is set at a minimum of 60 days of budgeted O&M expenses. Based on the fiscal year 2023 audited numbers, that minimum requirement should be around $15.1 million, and we currently have a little over $17 million set aside. So we're meeting the requirement. Second, we've got our senior lien reserve. This is maintained for the payment of their senior lien obligations. Each type of financing has a different priority level for repayment. The senior debt has the highest priority. This one, the reserve really is based under 3 different criteria. It's either the least of 100% of the maximum annual debt service, and that happens to be around $29.7 million. 2, 125% of the average annual debt service, which is about $17.2 million. Or 3, 10% of the initial principal, and that's at $28.6 million. We got this estimates or calculations from our financial advisor. And so with that said, our minimum requirement here is really $17.2 million. We have the ability to fund this reserve through a combination of cash and a surety policy, which we currently do. So we're currently funding it with $15.8 million in cash, and then the difference is made up from those surety policies that are in place. Third, we have our junior lien reserve. This one has a lower priority. It is maintained for payments of its junior lien obligations, not senior lien obligations. It is based on 100% of the average annual debt service, and that happens to be about $112,057. So the current balance of $112,531 is adequate funding. And then the last one here, the 4th one, is the capital reserve. It's meant to meet the capital project funding requirements. It is stipulated in a bond ordinance that has to have a minimum of $15 million, and we're just above that $15 million threshold. Here, these are the 2 new reserves that BPUB will be establishing. The first one is the decommissioning reserve. It's really there to provide adequate funding for decommissioning our BPUB's interest in power generation plants. If you all recall, the board did approve a budget to fund this initial reserve of $2 million in fiscal year 2025. We do have a target level of between $10 million and $15 million. So we do anticipate to fund this over a 5-year period. The initial funding for this, of course, it's coming from the net revenues of the system. The second new reserve that we're proposing is a power supply stabilization reserve. and this is to mitigate any fluctuations in the net power supply cost. Initial funding here has been set at 90 to 120 days of net power supply costs. And so those target levels are between 22 million and 29.3 million dollars. Here too, the initial funding for this reserve will come from net revenues of the system. Any funds spent from this reserve will then be replenished from the fuel purchase and energy charge collections. This draft policy has been reviewed by the executive staff, our financial advisor, and bond counsel. Very minor edits have been provided, but none of those edits have yet been incorporated into this policy. And so some of these changes include some additional language to the definition of our capital reserve. Two, change to funding requirement calculations for the operating reserve. I know the policy itself refers to the calculation being net of depreciation and net power supply. That's been adjusted just to budgeted operating O&M expenses, and so we're going to need to make incorporate those changes. We're also going to be adding some additional language to the replenishment of the senior and junior lien reserves. The RFA is recommending at least a 1 year to be able to replenish any deficiencies there. So we'll be adding that. And then we'll be changing the funding requirement for the power supply stabilization reserve to 10 years. Currently, the policy as it states that it will be funded within 5 years. But in order to reach that at least that $22 million requirement, it will take a little longer, so we're going to be changing it to 10 years. Now, the funding levels that we see in this policy are based on the fiscal year 2023 audited financial data. We do intend to measure compliance of these reserves with this policy on an annual basis as part of BPUB's budgeting process. So this policy will be updated on an annual basis, be brought to the board for their approval. This policy will also be presented to the Finance Committee this coming Thursday, November the 7th. And then we do plan to include this item in the board agenda for the November 14th board meeting. So if the board wishes or allows us to do that. Any questions?
What is our annual debt service? I was just wondering from the previous slide.
Our current annual debt service is at about $28.9 million. And we report that as part of the financials.
28.9, the
About
annual debt
28.9
service?
million.
But then, isn't the minimum 100% of the maximum annual debt service?
No, that's where we need to make that change. We got this
Oh,
incorrect
gosh.
in here. So it's like I was saying, it's the least of those three options that I provided. 100% of the maximum is at 29 million, but we can fund it to 125% of the average annual debt service. And so it's because we had certain refundings throughout the years, it extended the term of the loans that we're using as a denominator here, and it reduces the debt service, right? And so that's why that average annual debt service is significantly below the maximum that we're paying in debt service. So
Do you know what the total outstanding debt is?
at about 272 million as of August 31st. We just made a principal payment here on September the 1st of about 20 million. So we're looking at about 252 million outstanding debt right now.
And I'm having trouble remembering, sorry, for the next slide. The power supply stabilization reserve, is that amount, the target of 22 to 29 million, is that what we discussed the last time the board met?
Yeah, yes, it was. This one pretty much mirrors, its requirement mirrors what the Austin Energy policy requires, right? Which is 90 to 120 days based on our net power supply cost of about $88 million. And so this is a number that's going to fluctuate year to year based on the net power cost, but we'll be evaluating that on an annual basis.
And
bringing
remind me where that money's gonna come from right now?
It's going to need to come from the net revenues of the system. And as I had mentioned, as soon as we use those funds, then the replenishment would have to come in from the fuel purchase and energy charge collections.
But what is, like, when will this be budgeted?
We can either file a budget amendment and bring that to the board, say, in December, so that we can start funding, say, $2 million into this rate stabilization fund. All it's going to do, it's going to reduce the amount available for our
CIP?
CIP, correct. We can start that, or we can start effective next budget year, fiscal year '26 budget.
What is
starting
the
October 1st.
recommendation for when to start?
Really up to the board. I mean, we do have about in the fiscal year '25 budget, about a little over $19 million is going into CIP, and that's extraordinarily high from what we've seen in prior years. And so if we drop that with a budget amendment by $2 million, that wouldn't have a significant impact to our current CIP budget. So we can, we've already started funding the decommissioning reserve, so it would be good practice to maybe bring a budget amendment and we can start funding that $2 million as well into this power supply stabilization reserve.
I think this is a good move. This is something that we have discussed before, and I would just say that this is a full board discussion again, not consent agenda, because of the importance.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And yeah, one of the discussions that I had with Mike earlier was just since we're adding, since I wouldn't say that we're adding costs, but since we're taking this from net revenues, that we have the option of stopping this at any time, should there be a situation that requires that. So he already confirmed, as he did earlier, that they're going to be reviewing this on an annual basis as part of the budget process to make sure that we're still aligned. So I think we can probably get started, even if we start soon. The longer it takes, the better, I would say. That way it's kind of spread over a longer duration. We just want to make sure that we don't add too much cost, from the purchase fuel and energy, that it would impact the ratepayers. So that's.
It wouldn't come from that, right?
I'm sorry, what was that again? What wouldn't come from the ratepayers? So,
It wouldn't come from the purchased fuel and energy.
Well,
EPEC.
it would come from the fuel purchase and energy charge only to replenish the use of the funds.
Right,
Right.
but not.
When we're
this
setting
to
up,
create this reserve.
as we're depositing and coming up with this $22 million, it's coming from the net revenues of the system.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and add a provision into the policy itself.
Yep.
To that effect, that the board can stop the contributions at any point in time during the year.
Sure.
So we'll go ahead
Yeah,
and add
that would
in
be
there.
one of my requests.
I also, when you present it to the full board, I think having a timeline in this slide would be useful. And again, recommendations from the executive team as to when we could start. And that way we already have that information in there. And yes, like an asterisk here for the power supply stabilization reserve, that this is not not coming from that charge, right? But that's, I think we all understand that, but just having
Okay, yeah,
having
we
it in
can add
there.
that to the presentation. So,
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you for the presentation, and this, again, as mentioned already, this will go to the full board so that everyone can be aware, since it's a pretty significant change.
Okay, so we'll incorporate the changes as recommended by this committee, and then see if the finance committee has any other changes that they want
Yep,
to.
agreed. Yep.
Thank you.
All righty, so moving on, that leads to adjournment. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, well, this concludes the meeting. Thank you very much. Have a nice Halloween, everybody.
Thank you.